Building the framework. In this chapter, we will begin to build upon the foundation established in Novice. You will learn many of the broad concepts that will serve as tools for building a framework for understanding the marketplace through the market profile. Evaluating other timeframe control. We have stressed in general terms the importance of determining who, if anyone, is in control in a more detailed, conclusive discussion. To evaluate other timeframe control, we will examine range extension, tails, activity occurring in the body of the profile, and value area placement in relation to the previous day. In addition, each of these factors will be studied further, based on whatever the participants are acting on their own initiative or are willing to act only in response to an advantageous market movement. Another timeframe participant who acts on his own initiative is usually more determined than one who merely responds to a beneficial opportunity. Other timeframe control on the extremes. Tails or extremes. Tails are created when an aggressive buyer or seller enters the market on an extreme and quickly moves price. Generally, the longer the tail, the greater the conviction behind the move. A tail must be at least 2 TPOs long to be significant. The absence of aggressive other timeframe activity on an extreme indicates a lack of buyer or seller conviction. Range extension. Range extension is another structural feature that identifies control and helps gauge buyer-seller strength. Multiple period range extension is generally the result of successfully higher or lower auctions. The stronger the control, the more frequent and elongated the range extension, resulting in a more elongated profile. An elongated profile is an indication of good trade facilitation. TPO. The TPO count provides a means of measuring the activity of other timeframe within the body of the day's profile. It measures the level of imbalance between the other timeframe participant and the day timeframe, mostly local trader. Imbalance occurs when there are more other timeframe buyers than sellers or vice versa, leaving the local with an imbalance. If we can identify imbalance before it corrects itself, then perhaps we can capitalize on it too. Tails and range extension are more obvious forms of other timeframe presence, but on a volatile or choppy day, much of the imbalance occurs within the developing value area. The TPO count is found by isolating the point of control, summing all the TPOs above it, and comparing that number to the total number of TPOs below it. Single print tails are excluded from the count, because their implications are clear and have already been considered when examining activity on the extremes. Remember, the POC is significant because it indicates the price where most activity occurred during the day and is therefore the fairest price in the day timeframe. The total TPO figure above the point of control, POC, represents other timeframe traders willing to sell and stay short above value, while total TPOs below the POC represent other timeframe traders willing to buy and stay long below value. The resulting ratio is an estimate for buyer-seller imbalance in the value area. For example, a ratio of 32-24 breaks down to 32 selling TPOs above the POC and 24 buying TPOs below. Note that a value area is not specifically calculated. Rather, the methodology of the TPO count, i.e. single print rejections are not counted, implies value. Occasionally, activity reflected by range extension and tails will give us some clues regarding which participant is more aggressive on the extremes. But the value area battles are more subtle and often much slower to develop. Monitoring the TPO count through time helps us measure how the wins and losses are stacking up, and gives some indication of who will be the victor in the battle for control in the body of the profile. Examine Figure 3.2. A to F period registers a 1321 TPO count, which favors the other timeframe buyers. Consider what this 1321 TPO count logically means. The fact that the TPO count below the point of control is growing larger indicates that, although price is spending time below the point of control, price is not going anywhere. Had other timeframe sellers been aggressive within the value area, there would have been downside range extension. Range extension would have lowered the point of control and the perception of value, therefore balancing the TPO count and quite probably shifting it in favor of the sellers. With a TPO count building in the bottom half of the value area buyers and no selling range extension, chances are that it is the floor traders or locals who are selling to the other timeframe buyers. Profile B in Figure 3.2 shows the TPO count through H period moving back into balance at 2122. This temporary return to balance indicates that the locals' inventories became too short. In essence, they had sold too much and were forced to buy back some of their shorts to bring their inventories back into line. Consequently, price rotated up in G and H periods as the locals restored balance to their inventories. Again, in the final profile, other timeframe sellers were not present as price continued to rotate toward the day's upper extreme. The L period TPO print at 93.2132, bonds trade in 32 NDS of $1,000, and subsequent L period range extension pulled the point of control higher, confirming a final TPO tally in favor of buyers, 30.47. This end-of-the-day imbalance often provides momentum into the following day. Initiative versus responsive activity. Knowing whether the other timeframe participants are acting on their own initiative, as opposed to responding to opportune prices, is also important to understanding their influence. Traders can determine if activity is initiative or responsive by comparing the relationship of the day's structure to the previous day's value area. The previous day's value area acts as the truest, most recent indication of a level where price has been accepted over time. 4 types of potential activity may emerge. 1. Initiative buying. 2. Initiative selling. 3. Responsive buying. 4. Responsive selling, initiative buying, and initiative selling. Briefly, initiative buying is any buying activity occurring within or above the previous day's value area. Conversely, initiative selling is any selling activity that takes place within or below the previous day's value area. Initiative activity indicates strong conviction on the part of the other timeframe. Responsive activity is the opposite of initiative activity. Buyers respond to price below value, and sellers respond to price above value. Figures 3.3 and 3.4 illustrate these concepts in detail. Looking first at the lower right-hand side of Figure 3.3, the upward range extension in C period and the E period buying tail represent responsive buying. Buyers are responding to price considerably below the area of recent price acceptance. In other words, buyers have responded to the opportunity to buy cheap. Keep in mind that if price auctions down and finds buyers, that alone is not responsive. It is the fact that price is below value that makes the buying responsive. A responsive buying tail is also initiative selling range extension. For example, when the grocer lowered prices in his peanut butter extravaganza, it created initiative selling range extension. Buyers responded to this price below value, returning price to previous levels in a responsive buying tail. The initiative range extension and the responsive tail were one and the same activity. Referring again to Figure 3.3, notice that the flip side of the C period responsive buying range extension is a C period initiative selling tail. Similarly, the E period responsive buying tail was actually the outcome of a harsh rejection of E period initiative selling range extension. In Figure 3.4, we find the same thing. C period initiative buying range extension meets a responsive seller and eventually becomes a responsive selling tail. If range extension occurs in the last period of the day, however, it does not indicate a tail as well. A tail is only valid when confirmed by a rejection of price in at least one additional time period. Range extension and tails occurring within the previous day's value area are also considered initiative. If people choose to buy or sell within the area of most recently perceived value, their free choice to agree with recent price levels is really an initiative decision in itself, for they are not responding to excess price. Like all the information you are learning, The concept of initiative and responsive action is not just a random designation that should be committed to memory, but rather a logical characterization of price's relationship to value. The entire day's value area can be classified as either initiative or responsive as well. As noted before, this identification is important because it gives the trader an indication of market conviction and confidence. In short, initiative buying and responsive selling TPOs occur above the previous day's value area, while responsive buying and initiative selling TPOs occur below the previous day's value area. Any TPO activity occurring within the previous day's value area is considered initiative, although it does not carry as much confidence as initiative activity that takes place outside of the value area. Figures 3.5 and 3.6 illustrate these concepts. Key elements: a brief discussion. A trending market ends when price begins to auction back and forth between two known reference points, forming a bracket or trading range. A new trend begins when price leaves the bracketed area and is accepted over time. Many knowledgeable professionals estimate that markets trend only 20%, 39% of the time. Failure to recognize this fact is one of the main reasons why a large number of traders don't make money. A good indication of trend continuation lies in observing value area placement. If a series of value areas is moving in a clear direction through time, then the new price levels are being accepted and the trend is finding acceptance. If value areas begin to overlap or move in the opposite direction of the trend, then chances are good that the trend is slowing and beginning to balance. In a bracket, both the other timeframe buyer and seller become responsive parties. As price nears the top of the perceived bracket, the seller responds and auctions price downward through the bracket or equilibrium range. In turn, the responsive buyer enters and rotates price back to the upside. This bracketing process indicates that the market is in balance and waiting for more information. Therefore, when price is accepted above or below a known bracket extreme, the market could be accepted above or below a known bracket extreme. The market could be coming out of balance. By observing and understanding the market profile, it is possible to differentiate short-term bracketing activity from a potentially strong, sustained price movement. The two big questions. Successful implementation of the profile depends on being able to answer just two basic, sweeping questions that stem from the market's ultimate purpose in facilitating trade. Which way is the market trying to go? And is it doing a good job in its attempt to go that way?